I will stop my part there, and perhaps we can pick up on some of the points which, hopefully, I've raised in the course of that presentation.
Stephen, thank you very, very much indeed for a very fluent, well, it can't be very fluent, a fluent presentation indeed. And yes, coming back to that point, it's interesting, your very last point about a unified prosecution approach. It sort of harks back, I think, to they were talking about a single financial court jurisdiction at some point. So you wonder if it's
in 2006.
Exactly, whether it'll all go that direction. Because I think
maybe possible.
Yeah, so there's some sort of question mark. I know whether Serious Fraud Office will exist. I think there was some coverage in the press after the next election, depending on who wins. And really also the breakup potentially of the FSA as well, where their enforcement side will end up as well. So yes, that's all very timely. There's certainly a huge amount happening. I think a lot of corporates, it's coming back to a lot of the points you've made on this slide, will be interested under money laundering legislation, for example, money laundering regulations. You've clearly got this sort of approved guidance from the Treasury for, I think I'm right in saying, the JMLSG, Joint Money Laundering Steering Group, and the Law Society and the Institute of Chartered Accountants.
That's right.
But on this, as far as I understand it from the government response, they're saying they're not going to issue any formal approved guidance for this. And but they have said, and I think I'm right in saying it's the guidance will be indicative, setting out broad principles, illustrative good practice examples, which sounds remarkably like what the FSA puts on its website, which is sort of, you'd better look at this, but on the other hand, we're not. That's no cover though, really.
No.
So a lot of companies are going to be, as you say, looking internally, but where are they left? I mean, they're going to go presumably to law firms, external accountants, and hopefully get some sort of accreditation or sign-off by the large accountancy firms of this world.
I think that's right.
There's a lot of uncertainty, though.
But do you know, I can't say I have a huge amount of sympathy there. I mean, I know that the government has said it doesn't want statutory guidance, a la money laundering regulations. I think there is a general awareness out there about the kinds of systems and controls and corporate governance which a company should have to prevent bribery. We don't have a huge amount of experience in this country about it, but the Americans have a huge amount of experience. And in fact, the Serious Fraud Office itself has set out a number of points which it would expect to see in a company, in its corporate, when it comes to the Serious Fraud Office, is trying to show that it is a new company, for example, a company which is no longer tainted by corrupt activity. And they will look at things like, well, what are your agency arrangements? What are your banking arrangements with your agents? Do you have agents? What are your due diligence procedures with your agents? What's your training? How do you train people in your company? Who do you train in your company? Is it just the people, the salespeople, or is it the accounts people? And I think I think there are a number of I think there is actually already a huge amount of guidance out there, and I'm really not sure that corporates, when they really come to it, are necessarily going to have a difficulty. And actually, I wonder whether they might actually prefer that. Because if you have a statutory guidance, you might look at it very much as a constraining influence. And let's face it, there's been criticism of the money laundering regime as being too inflexible. So I'm not sure you can have it both ways, if you see my point.
And I think it's interesting, coming back to the FSA, I remember someone saying a long time ago, actually a lot of what the FSA